ago, and that was due today. If you haven't done that, please fill that out either on your phone right now, in 2 seconds, or right at the end of the meeting. We need to make sure that everybody is signed off on that form. Secondly, if there's any change to your health insurance last minute, we also need to know that before we start shipping everybody off. If you're driving, you're going to come back to the Eagle's Nest after your breakout reflection, and we're going to have a quick driver's meeting. Make sure to bring your driver's license and a pen. And then lastly, we're going to start this social media campaign called Moments of Encounter to serve as a countdown to the trip. We're actually 20 days away from spring break. So Wednesday, February 14th is 2 weeks. Rather, Friday is 2 weeks away. And so by Wednesday, if you want to be included in this campaign, what we're looking for is what we call moments of encounter. And so a picture with a story or a blurb about someone you met on Appa or your group, or something that you really think embodies the whole spirit of encountering communities on Appalachian. So if you want to be included in this, you can send us an email to appalach@bc.edu, ideally by Wednesday, so we can start organizing everything and getting the trips going. Cool. All right, I'm going to pass this thing on.
Okay, so we're just going to talk a little bit about packing logistics. I know that that's something that I'm always thinking about, is what can I bring and what can I bring it in. So as you know, 35 of our 37 trips will be flying, so really exciting. What that means is that every participant and trip leader alike will have a sleeping bag as their personal item for the airline, and then a carry-on bag. So all of your clothes for the week, toiletries, things like that will have to fit in a carry-on bag. So that's a small duffel bag, a small rolling suitcase, something that is airline in size. But then every trip will also have one check bag, and that will be for any liquids that are over 3 ounces, if anyone has any medication that they need to bring with them or anything like that. But on Appa, this is something we've talked about throughout the year. We really try to embrace the idea of simple living, and so this is one way that we're doing that, is by not bringing too much with us. So that's what you need to know for now, is to kind of secure a sleeping bag and a carry-on bag for yourself for the trip, and your trip leaders will have more information about the actual accommodations at each site, but we just wanted everyone to kind of have that on their radar if you're starting to think about that. So next we have the really exciting part of our meeting, which is the raffle drawing. So our fundraising committee, so Molly, Christian, Alec, Margaret, and myself are going to be drawing the raffle because we were not entered in it, so it will be fair. And when we draw the raffle, we're going to read out the name of the person who won, and then also the participant that was attached to that. So it might be the same person, but maybe not. Let's get started. Oh, and if you win or your family member or friend wins, then come up and receive the basket and your prize. Okay.
Surprise basket. Okay, Joseph Hobbs, sold by Kayla Hobbs.
Basket number 9 is the girls' night out basket. The winner is Maggie Edmondson.
I know you really wanted that one.
Next we have Boston Food Tour. Woo! Arguably our most popular basket. The winner is Mary Beth McMahon, sold by Chris McMahon.
Chris is getting a food tour.
Hey.
All right, basket number 7, Coolidge Corner date night. Next up, we have the staying in bucket. Ow!
Rigged. That's 2-2.
And the winner is Claire Ryan.
Okay. The next basket is the Boston College cornhole. Lizzie Toepler.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
The next basket is Boston Sports Lover.
Let me cut it out. I know.
Dangerous.
And the winner is Kate Schuler.
Kate Schuler.
What?
Next we have our Vineyard Vine shopping experience.
This one is.
Yeah, that it is.
And the winner is Martha Callahan.
Yeah, we do. I don't know what's in it. Oh, one night midweek stay.
Oh my god.
Martin Darlack.
What the heck?
Martin.
He's not here.
He doesn't deserve it.
Okay, now for our grand prize, the Aruba trip. The winner is tough name to read. It was Claire Bacon. Harrison Fish.
That was a very disproportionate.
Congrats to all of our winners. Thank you all for participating in the huge fundraising prize. And it really helps a lot to make sure we all get down to where we're going. Snowy is now going to come up and talk for a quick second.
Hey everyone. So transitioning a little in this meeting, we're gonna have a few trip leaders come up and talk about some of their experiences on the trips, sort of addressing different topics like apprehensions or what they were excited about, how they packed and whatnot. TLs who are coming to talk, they know who they are. Please come up here. You all can read the names.
Is it on? There we go. Thank you, Luke. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Lizzie Toepler. Proud winner of a new BC Cornhole. I am a junior. I am a psychology major, biology minor on the pre-veterinary track. I currently live in 2000, and last year I went to Greenville, North Carolina. Great trip. So last year I joined Appa as a new sophomore. I didn't go freshman year, and I had a lot of people ask me like, oh, like what made you sign up for Appa? Why sophomore year? You didn't go last year, like what's different this year. And if we're being very, very honest with one another, I signed up for Appa to win an argument with my friend. At the beginning of sophomore year, I was talking to her. She's a few years older, many years wiser than I am. And she was like, Lizzie, why didn't you go on Appa last spring? And I gave her a lot of like non-committal answers. I was like, oh, I wanted to go home, you know, like it was just too big of a commitment. A lot of answers that just like, I didn't really have a good reason why I didn't. And she kind of listened and then was like, well, you have to go because you're such an Appa girl. And I was like, what is an Appa girl? What does that mean? And like the normal human response to something like this would to be like ask more questions, like, oh, like what part of the programs do you think would like resonate with me personally? Like, why do you think I would love Appa? Like, what makes an Appa girl? But I went with something along the lines of, oh yeah, you're on. So I signed up for Appa. I went to all the Sunday meetings, small group reflections. I had a nice time. And then about 1 week out from the trip, I came to the very sudden and completely terrifying realization that I really didn't want to do it. I didn't want to travel 20 hours on a coach bus with 12 complete strangers. I convinced myself that these people were weird alien creatures that I would never get along with. And I was really nervous to go to North Carolina where I'd never really been before. But with the help of, a lot of help from my friends who had already been on Appa, coupled with the fact that I literally had no other options, I convinced myself I would be okay. So I showed up at 4:30 a.m. on that Sunday, equipped with my pillow, a bottle of NyQuil, and shaky nerves of steel. And I got on the bus. And then about 8 hours later, our bus broke down. Here's a picture of me outside said broken down bus. It was at a rest stop in the Chesapeake Bay area, which is about 72 miles from my house. You may be wondering how I know it's 72 miles from my house, and that's because I pulled up my Uber app and calculated the fare back to my house. Probably 5 times during this 2-hour pit stop. But I think the main reason I was so scared to go on this trip was because I was scared to spend so much time with brand new people in a brand new community. As human beings, we have stereotypes. I think it's one of the things people find most difficult to admit, but myself included, but it's true. We go through life with preconceived notions about who people are and what they're like. We make snap judgments based off fleeting interactions, brief introductions, or even just a shared glance. Nobody wants to be someone who forms opinions based on someone's physical appearance or tone of voice or style of dress, but we do. Weeks before the trip, I had formed ideas about the people I was going to be working with, both in my group and in the community of Greenville. I was engaging in a brand new experience with brand new people, and I was terrified. I didn't believe that I would find friends in the quiet and reserved group of 12 BC students I was traveling with. I remember the night before we left, as we were sitting at our leaders' dinner table, a little too quietly and a little too awkwardly for a group that was about to spend the next week living together, just thinking, crap, this is probably gonna suck. It took me a 20-hour bus ride and half a day at her site to realize just how wrong I had been. This is a picture of Molly Wolf. When I first met her, I thought she was going to be incredibly quiet and shy. This is a picture I took of her as she was applying aloe to her sunburns and screaming. So she turned out to not be incredibly quiet and shy. Next picture. This is a picture of me and my friend and then our trip leader, Brendan Cook, who I thought was gonna be horribly serious and no nonsense the whole trip, up until the second day when he blasted the soundtrack of Hamilton and sang along a little too well the entire 20-minute van ride to our site. This is Emmett Walsh, who before the trip I thought was a scary RA who would love nothing more than to write me up. I very quickly learned that he is instead one of the world's most avid heads-up players and has a serious and at times alarming knack for Cards Against Humanity. So, this is a picture of me and 12 of my most favorite people in the world. A lot of them are here right now, probably all placing bets on how long it will take for me to cry. At the beginning of the week, I thought I wasn't going to be able to get through the week fast enough, By the end of the week, I was sobbing in the back of the van to Darius Rucker's rendition of Wagon Wheel at the thought of having to leave. I also had stereotypes about Greenville. We were a group of 13 college students entering a community that struggles with violence, poverty, and a lack of readily available resources. A community where 7 out of 10 kids grow up without a father, and local gangs start recruiting boys at the ages of 10 and 11 years old. I didn't believe a community such as Greenville would show me any kindness. I, once again, was proved wrong. I was met with more hope and selflessness within a 10-block radius of downtown Greenville than I had in any other community I've ever been a part of. Everyone in the neighborhood cared immensely. Everyone in the neighborhood took active steps in fighting for a better future. Everyone in the neighborhood overflowed with love, a love that touched everyone who meets them. My week spent in Greenville found me immersed in love, forced to open my eyes to it and surround myself in it and really, truly believe in it. I saw it in my TLs as they attempted to inspire hope in a group of tired, apprehensive college kids locked out of their bus at a rest stop in Maryland. I saw it in my fellow group members as we leaned on one another in reflections and fought over the privilege of dish duty at dinners. I saw it in the actions and stories of our site coordinators, whose incredible acts of selflessness and sacrifice inspired awe and admiration in all who bore witness. I saw it in the hearts of the boys at 3rd Street Academy, whose relentless exuberance and enthusiasm in the face of poverty and heartbreak made a deep and lasting impression on our hearts. Appa has taught me that what we find and think at first glance is never the whole story. If I have any piece of advice for anyone going on Appa, it is to show up. Show up to those painfully awkward pre-trip group dinners. Show up and get on the bus or flight. Do not Uber home halfway through it. Show up at your sites. Show up at reflections. Show up with your preconceived ideas and let them be challenged. I just want to end quickly with the response I wrote in our final reflection when we had come back to BC on campus. We were asked to reflect on where we had seen light in the past week. This is what I wrote. Never have I witnessed so much selflessness in a community. The lessons I have taken away from the stories of our site coordinators are those of resounding and overwhelming love. Interacting with members of the community, people who are surrounded by darkness every day, and seeing their hope for the future fills me with the same. I have also seen light in all of you. I get a lot of anxiety in environments where I don't know anyone. I feel a pressure to constantly be on, and this week is probably the first time in a long time I've felt secure and supported enough to turn off. This group has made me feel loved and valued and important, and I can't thank you enough for that. Thank you.
My name is Stavros Piperis. I'm a junior TL, studying political science from Omaha, Nebraska. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with spirituality through this program. And it, I would say, began, at least when I was reflecting about the topic a little bit, with the notion of love as a choice, and as a pretty simple one. And the centrality of love as a theme is clear in the motto, and love, learn, serve, and then a lot of the speakers that come here, they're constantly talking about it. And this idea of love not necessarily being feeling, emotion, but a choice in action, that sort of brought both a realization and a question. The realization was that if it is as simple as a choice that we're capable of, and further, if it's something of huge importance, then the realization, at least for me, has been that, well, this is accessible pretty much every moment of every day of my life, which is both scary, but I think really cool to realize. And then the question was that, what is it about Appa trips that has facilitated that has sort of drawn attention to that for me, and that has sort of cleared it up. And so in response to the question, I think the first thing about my Appa trips, at least, has been silence and distance. And I say that because, as everybody in this room knows, campus life is nuts, and not only is it nuts in that we're always busy, schedule-wise, but at least I feel this way in my head in terms of what's occupying my thoughts when I wake up in the morning. It is incessantly campus activities, it's school, it's Appa stuff. I mean, all of this combines, and even if, at least I've experienced, even if my activities are good, I frequently end up overstrapped with them. And the sort of first part of an Appa trip, of my 2 Appa trips now, that has enabled the rest of it has been quietness and silence in contrast to craziness on campus, and also distance from it. I think really, I've been on a long bus ride for both of my trips, and there's something about 20 hours on that bus and then another 4 or so in a van that offers some removal from the sort of state of mind we're in here. And that, I think, Father Greg Boyle has this statement in his book Tattoos on the Heart, which is something along the lines of, the best we can do is listen for the moments that rhyme with the vastness of God. And that, when I first read it, I think we actually had to read it for this program last year. And that really helped me develop an attitude and a sort of way of receiving and trying to experience things going into a trip rather than trying to take something from every talk we've heard or every reflection we've had. Just that idea of kind of listening for the rhymes was something that I think for me was really busted open by the distance and being able to get away from this campus. And once that happened, once you find yourself in a place where you have a little more time to think, to process, then I think, at least for me, that's when my sensibilities have been able to kind of, I've been more sensitive to little things that mean a lot. And when I think about my Appa trips, usually, I was rereading my journals from last spring, and the moments or the passages that I put the most effort into were usually not, they didn't always have to do with big themes of justice, like large font socioeconomic stuff. It was always these little moments of interaction, of encounter is a great way to put it, with members of the community or with people in the group, that on paper, if you were assessing things with dollar signs or manpower or hours, wouldn't really amount to anything, but ended up being part of the reason that that I have felt meaning in my experiences. And most of these have been had something to do with laughter. I don't know if it's just my trip or my 2 trips, or if this happens on most of them, but there's this giddiness that just develops a couple of days into the trip where kids cannot stop laughing. And it is so refreshing, at least for me. It has been to be in a childlike atmosphere on these trips. At least I'm Greek Orthodox, and in my faith, so similar to Catholicism, there's a lot of talk about being like children. Christ asks us to be like children. St. John addresses us as little children in his letters. And if we're only thinking about the mission of these trips in those big, socio-political manners, then we miss these little things, and we miss the chance to be, to sort of lose all these bells and whistles of titles and things like that, and just have fun, joyous experiences. So that joy is something that has been the most potent out of anything I've experienced on my Appa trips. And those moments have brought more meaning than any other ones. And to bring it sort of full circle, we ask a lot of big questions of ourselves in regard to these trips, and some of them are, why are we going? What good are we doing? How much are we helping? Are we hurting in some ways? And these are important questions, and if we're sincere, then we'll get to them in due time. But the most important question that I've been able to ask myself about my trips at the end of them, or reflecting back on them, trying to decide whether to, do another Appa trip after you've already been. The most helpful question has always been, am I grateful? And that has also been the easiest answer. It's been absolutely, yes, of course. And then the necessary follow-up to that is, okay, what are you grateful for? And that question, for me, has been the sort of starting point for why should I do this again? Is it good or bad that I'm there? And if gratitude, for me, is the most helpful guide spiritually, because if you're truly grateful for something, at least if I'm truly grateful for something, that's a great way for me to determine what is good and beautiful and worth pushing for. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Hey everybody, so I'm going to start off by saying that whoever found that picture of me, deep stalked my Facebook, and I have mad respect for that. That was kind of impressive. Hi, my name is Sophia Fox. I am a sophomore here. I'm studying English and International Studies, and I live in Walsh, which is an experience. And I'm originally from Sacramento. Now, raise your hand if you know someone other than me that's from Sacramento.
Oh.
Right? Okay, so not a lot of people. We are a few and very proud breed out here in Boston. There is one other person from Sacramento in my grade. I met him on the dance floor at senior prom. It was really awkward, and I was like, good, so I'm going into this school knowing literally no one. But all summer I was like, that's fine, I'm fine, this is okay, it's fine. So I made a plan for myself. I was like, these are the activities I'm gonna do. I went on the BC page, I was looking up all of the clubs, what do I see myself doing? I was trying to decide my entire 4 years and the weeks before I came here. And my leader for my tour of campus was Bailey. And he talked a lot about Appa, and I was like, wow, this kid seems like he has his life together, so I'm also going to sign up for Appa. And that's been fun. I awkwardly approached him at the TO retreat, and I was like, hi, you're the reason why I'm here. So I started freshman year, doing everything, living on Newton, and first semester I was just like, yeah, this is fine, this is okay, everything's going great, it's all okay. I came back second semester, and I was like, wow, I hate this school. I hated it. I was miserable. I had very few friends. I didn't spend time with people. Literally most of my time was just me alone in my dorm room. And I was like, how did I get here? I planned out my 4 years, and that plan isn't working out for me. And I was on the verge of transferring. I called my mom, and I was crying. And I was like, I'm gonna transfer. And she was like, I paid your tuition for next year. You can't transfer. And she so how I got into DC, I knew nothing about it. I applied. I got in. I took my tour. I'm standing on the steps in front of Gaston, and I look at my dad. I'm like, I'm gonna go to school here. It's snowing and cold, and we're from California. And he's like, wow, you're insane, but have fun. So my mom was not a huge fan of her youngest daughter moving 3,000 miles away. So when I called to say that I was thinking about transferring, it was a little bit of her wanting to be I told you so, but also not, because she's a supportive mother. So really fun dynamics going on there. And I just want to pause here for a moment and say there's a lot of freshmen in the room, and the feeling of hating this school and wanting to transfer and wanting to leave is super common. Very weird thing that happens. A lot of people hate DC their first year. If any of you feel like that, you are not alone. 100%, if any of you want to talk to me, my name's up there, look me up, take down your deals for my phone number, I will sit with you if you want to talk about it, just straight up. So, I'm second semester, not having a good time, but I keep telling myself, what about this Appa trip? I'm going to wait until this service trip. I did service in high school, I enjoyed it, so I just kind of stuck through, and then the night before the trip, I was going to go stay in Haley Cobbs' room, because we had to get on the bus at 3 in the morning. And it was so cold. Asked me what I'm doing with my life, and I was like, I don't know. I'm really tired, and I'm not having a good time. And I had to get to Upper, and I didn't know anything about Upper because I was on Newton. So I was trying to explain to him how to drop me off there, but I didn't know, so eventually I was just like, "You just drop me off here," and he turns around and he's like, "I'm really concerned for you." And in that moment, I like almost started crying, and I was like, I can't make this like nice grandpa man like super scared for me, so I was like, "No, it's fine." So I start walking with like this huge bag. I'm freezing, my hands hurt, I can like barely hold on to anything, and I'm just sobbing. And I was like, I can't make it to Upper, I can't make it on this trip, I can't make it through this year, I can't make it through this school, like I've made a huge mistake. Like, the first decision I had to make in my life, where to go to college, I messed that up. Like, how am I gonna survive the next however many years of my life? And I'm having an absolute panic attack, and then I was like, I have to go into this girl's room and spend the night there, and we sit next to each other in Spanish, and like that's all that I know about her. So I really need to act like I'm a cool person. Like I need to get myself together. So I pull it together, I go into her room. Also, Haley's here, she's an amazing human being. Thank you for like acting like I wasn't crying. So I know it was super obvious, but she's just so chill about it. So I go in there and I was like, this is really weird, like I don't know what to say to this person. And then I realized I'm gonna spend the next week doing this whole thing. So we get on the trip, and I tend to be the type of person where either I see people that I don't know and I'm like, you're about to be my best friend, and I'm like super outgoing, or I see people that I don't know and I'm like, if I don't say anything and like don't move, they won't notice me. So I started doing that, which, fun fact, doesn't work when there's only like 14 people there and you're all building community. So I'm kind of like withdrawing from my group, like not trying to talk to people, and then at the same time being like, oh, this isn't a good trip, because I was like purposely doing it wrong. And we played a lot of heads up and like catchphrase. So those games started getting really, really intense. And I was just sitting in the circle and I was like really tired, like not having it. And we were like doing something and somebody started saying like half of the first clue, and I just like said the word and everyone was like, ooh, that was nasty. And then I just became really good friends with them after that point. And it was it was so weird. Like someone saying that to me, I was just like, wow, they respect me for knowing what that word was. And I expected Appa to be like this huge life-changing experience, like it's gonna show me why I chose this school. It wasn't. It really wasn't. Like, I did not change at all on that trip. All I did was I spent time with people, and I realized that I was still a good person, and that I was still a person worth getting to know, because these other people chose to get to know me. And that is such a validating experience. And even more so was the people in the community. Like, I sat down with this woman and I talked about her chicken, Eddie Mae, for like half an hour. And she like took me into her kitchen, she showed me the eggs that like the chicken gives her every day, and like just seeing how joyful this chicken made her, and the fact that she felt the need to tell me about it, I was like, what have I done to earn this? What have I done to feel this way to this person? And then I realized like just showing up and just being there, that's all you have to do. Like, I can't agree more with Lizzie, her advice is just show up and be there on the trip. So I came back from Appa, not at all a different person, not at all, just having a different perspective of not being like, well, I don't know what to do on Friday nights, I'm just gonna sit alone in my room. But actually being like, no, I think that I have something to contribute. I can be fun to be around. I can spend time with people, and attempting to do that is super, super important. Like, that was something I wasn't willing to do before, and I was willing to do it after my trip. And I think the best moment was we were on the horribly long bus ride back, and we're playing more catchphrase, and the word was Los Angeles. And someone says, a city in California. Okay, city in California. Most people would say Los Angeles. Someone in my group goes, Sacramento! And I was like, these people love me. I have done it, I've spread the gospel. And like that moment right there, I was just like, I think I did something right here, and I think that there's no reason why I can't keep doing things right at this school. Like, I don't have to throw everything away and try again just because it didn't start the way that I wanted to. So I would just encourage all of you guys, like, even if you really don't want to go on this trip, you're just like not feeling BC as a whole, don't think that the issue is you. Like, you can find a way. And maybe that way is at a different school, maybe it's with different people in different clubs, but I think that Appa will give you a really good chance to reflect both on yourself and on the people around you and kind of see where you fit into the whole, because I promise you all have a place there.
I don't know how I'm going to be able to follow up. But I'm going to give it my best. Hi everyone, my name is Andy Kearney. I'm a senior here in the Carroll School of Management studying accounting and information systems. I'm originally from a small town called Reading, Connecticut, about an hour outside New York City, so 203 represent. So, as the only senior on the panel, I want to build upon what these three awesome people have talked about and just talk a little bit about why I keep coming back year after year and the course of my 4 years here, why it's led me to this point. I think one of the most frequently asked questions I get as a second semester senior is, so what resort are you going to in Punta this year? And you'll probably see a lot of my friends, a lot of my best friends, at the Plex and on the Punta diet, and I am very much not on the Punta diet, not at the Plex, partially because I just don't like the Plex. So why am I here? Year after year, keep coming back to Appa. And it all started freshman year. And unlike Sophia, I was having a pretty good time freshman year. And I came in, didn't really know what I was going to do for spring break, but much like the freshman, how many of you are freshmen? Every freshman. Yeah, okay, so there's a lot of solidarity there. Freshman year, much like the freshman housing process, I just wanted my spring break plans to be done and over with, because it's the worst. So my RA came up to me one day and said, hey, have you had something planned? Do you know where you're going to go? And I said, absolutely not. He said, you're going on Appa. And I said, great, I'll get to go somewhere south, it'll be fantastic. And I get my trip assignment, and I'm going to Wheeling, West Virginia. Where's Wheeling? Wheeling, what's up? Hey, Wheeling. So I'm going to Wheeling, West Virginia. And I said, great, I'm going somewhere south. It's been a brutal winter. Anybody who remembers the winter of 2015 at DC, we got 120 inches of snow in 10 weeks. It was a lot of fun. And then I went down to Wheeling, West Virginia for spring break, and it snowed. I was like, I have made a terrible mistake. I could have been in the Caribbean. But anyway. I went down, and that snow led us into a completely different path from what we were planning on doing. That's one of the beautiful things about Appalachia. You never really know what you're going to do when you're coming in. Maybe if you're on a habitat trip, you're probably going to be working on a house. If you're in a community trip, you never really know. You never know the people you're going to interact with, the types of people that are going to be in your group, the people that are going to be in your community. You never know when it's going to snow 7 inches, and you're in Wheeling, West Virginia, and they don't have the infrastructure to clear 7 inches of snow. So you're kind of trapped, and you have to work around that. And that teaches you a lot. And so a lot of the time on that trip was spent learning about the infrastructure, the problems they have, rural poverty in West Virginia, the coal mines, the different issues that you deal with in the heart of Appalachia, what it really meant, and what I was envisioning when I heard the term Appalachia volunteers the first time around. I met a lot of my best friends on that trip, friendships that'll last a lifetime, and learned a ton, be it about, like I said, the coal mines, rural poverty, the issues of providing not-for-profit help across state lines, which is something you guys will deal with in Wheeling for sure. And a lot of things I hadn't been exposed to in the first 18 years of my life. And I had a great time. It was everything I thought it was going to be, and then some. I made these great friends, learned everything, did service. It fulfilled that love, learn, serve component of the Appa mission so incredibly well. But then there's this and beyond component of Appa. And some people say, if you go on Appa one time and it's great, that's the one time you want to do it. You check all your boxes, you're done. Going to Punta next year, whatever. And I wanted to get this and beyond. What else is out there? What else haven't I experienced? So I ended up coming back my sophomore year, and I got placed in Detroit, Michigan. And guess what? It snowed again. So I said, okay, well, this is going to be fine. There was a little bit of snow on the ground. It got warmer as the week went on. It was all good. But it was outside of Appalachia. It was something beyond Appalachia. And we learned a lot there. We learned a lot about urban poverty this time, and the white flight, and the fall of the automotive industry, and urban planning, and I cried for the first time in 10 years on that trip. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about people in my group, completely different perspectives. I learned about what I believe, what I don't believe. I had a great 4-hour reflection one night. Where's Maddie Greeley? We talked about what we believe and what we don't believe for ages. Aaron Rocher and Chris McMahon are in the room as well. So that was an incredible time. Learned completely different things. The first trip, lots of fun, checked all the boxes. The second trip really challenged. Every single person on my trip cried at least once, and it was incredible. It was the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. And then came back again junior year, and I made another terrible mistake, and I went abroad. I went to London. I was in spring semester of my junior year. I was in London, and right as I was about to go abroad, my co-lead from my sophomore year gave me this journal. And for those of you that know me, I am a terrible journaler. Even when I'm on Appa, I barely even journal. And I took this journal to London, and she intended it for me to use it to, keep track of things and journal. And I wrote one thing in it the entire time while I was abroad, and it says, as you guys can validate, I should be on Appa right now. While I was in the middle of March, watching all the photos come in from my friends that were going on these trips and doing the same thing that I had been doing for the last few years, all I could think about was, I should be on Appa right now. What can I be doing to kind of give myself that experience? And I was in London. I was banned by the UK from doing any volunteer work. How can I go about doing Appa things while that's happening? So I was really intentional that week about going out and kind of living out that Appa experience, even though I was way beyond Appalachian, not just Detroit, I was across the pond. And I went around the city and I talked to people and I looked at some of the most impoverished areas of London and the kind of systemic issues that I saw in Detroit and I saw in Wheeling and how I could apply those to places all over the world. And thinking about what that experience had been in the US and how I could translate that to no matter where I went. And I walked around and it was kind of the same, save for the funny accents and the fact that they didn't have, fried food and ranch dressing like the places that have in Appalachia. But it was a lot of time to sit back and reflect and do my own thing and think about, you know what, I'm gonna come back senior year, I have one more chance to do this and I'm absolutely coming back one final time. So this year, I came back. I have one more shot at this. And thankfully, I got placed in Hollywood, South Carolina. Let's go. It's not gonna snow there this time, I'm confident. So I'm thrilled about that. Finally getting a real spring break, so to speak. But I think looking back on it in retrospect, having spent 2 years on Appa, 1 year abroad doing fake Appa, and thinking about that loving, learning, serving, and beyond, there's so much to be learned from every single time you do it. No two trips are the same. We talked a lot about this on my second trip. There's no way you can compare a first trip to a second trip. Whether this is your first time doing it, it's your fourth time. I know people have done it 5 or 6 times in here, some are Appa people. But being able to come back and realize there is something new to be gleaned each and every time. And that and beyond translates to so many different parts of the Appa experience. I know for a lot of you, this is your first time, and I hope that all of you have a great time, no matter where you go, no matter where you are, in Appalachia or beyond. I hope it checks all those boxes for you. I hope you come back year after year. That's why I came back. I hope you will too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. That was really incredible. And so now, I think we're gonna break out into trip groups and head over to Stokes or wherever else your small groups are meeting, and then retail should be doing reflection. Oh, and drivers come back.